That's excellent. My name is Ronan, and I'm going to host this session for you. It's a topic that I get really excited about, is talking about leadership. And it's something that I help people do often, whether they're involved in like a youth group leader within a parish setting or something like that. Certainly students that want to be leaders within their particular school. My day job when I'm not doing Ignite things is with a team of people who train students who want to be school prefects or student rep council or house captains at their particular school. We do heaps of training to help those students to become leaders. And so this is something I get real excited about. You'll hear me getting excited, and I hope you get excited about it whilst you're in this topic as well. I think sometimes there are people who think, oh, I don't really want to tell people that I want to be a leader because maybe they don't think I'd be a good leader, or I'll just sit back and wait till I'm asked to be a leader. But I say no. I say, actually, be proud of the fact that you're thinking of becoming a leader, or that you would like to be a leader, and that you don't want to just be someone who goes along with the flow all the time, that you've got an ambition to perhaps be a leader. I think that's an excellent thing. So in this particular session, you're going to hear me keep talking about the fact that it's a very, very positive thing. I want to start off our workshop with a little game. It only goes for a couple of minutes, but it's only going to work if you're in pairs, okay? So it's totally fine if it means that you pair up with someone you don't know. That still works fine. I promise it's not a difficult challenge. But this challenge won't work in a group of 3, okay? So I'm going to give us 30 seconds now. If you need to shift where you're sitting to sit next to somebody else to make a group of 2, I'm going to get you to do that now, okay? So split up if you need to. Be brave. Move your chair along and sit next to somebody else so we don't leave anybody out. Okay. That's the easy bit. Now, if you look at the notes page that I've given you, you'll see if you use the first section of that, there is a heading that says Introduction Activity. So that's pretty obvious, the fact that it says Introduction Activity. It's what we're going to use for this next part. Now, first part, I want you to decide, you only need one person's page out of the 2 of you. Decide whose page you're going to use, but you both need a pen. Okay, so very quickly, decide whose page you're going to use out of the 2 of you. Quick one, quick one, quick one. Okay, both have your pen ready. Now, I'm going to give you what I believe is the toughest leadership challenge I've come across. Some might think if this is an introduction activity, it should be something silly and easy. But I think, nope, I'm going to put you guys to the test real hard, real soon, and give you this challenge. When I announce the challenge in just a moment, you are going to have 40 seconds to complete the challenge. I'll be timing it. My advice is, even though it's a tough challenge, don't spend the first 20 seconds like trying to argue with it or go how on it. Just have a go at it, all right? Even though it's complicated. So, have your pen ready, and then I'll give you the challenge because you've got only 40 seconds. Okay? Even if it's confusing to you, attempt it at your best. Here's the challenge, everybody. You have 40 seconds to play as many games of noughts and crosses as you can. It's easy. 40 seconds has started. Off you go. 40 seconds of noughts and crosses. Everybody's favourite challenge. Super competitive leaders you are, I can tell. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up. Okay, no more. Now, it's awesome watching from this angle towards your faces, because as soon as I say time's up and you all look back at me, I can see 2 different types of faces. I can see some of you smiling because you're like, yay, I just won the challenge and I'm feeling really good about myself, okay? I can see some of you looking at me now with a frown on your face as if like, that's the dumbest challenge ever. I just got beaten 2-0 and now I feel terrible. Why did we do that, okay? Yeah, tied. There's always some ties in there somewhere. So, I'm not actually going to ask you who won and lost because your face already gives it away, but I did actually play a trick on you there. What I said was play as many games of noughts and crosses as you can. So I'm not going to ask who won or lost. The instruction was play as many as you can. What I want you to do is look down at your page. Don't say it out loud, but count how many completed games there are. If it's a draw, that's okay. But completed games, like you got to the end of the round, okay? Count out how many completed games you've got. Now, put your hand up if you completed 2 or more. So 2 or more games of noughts and crosses. Okay. Put your hand up if you completed 3 or more. Keep it up. Keep it up for 3 or more. Okay, so we've lost half of the room, so I didn't get past 2. Okay, keep your hand up for 4 or more games of noughts and crosses. Okay, so record basically was 3, right? I get that. Now, we're going to do a different challenge. Before we do that challenge, I want you to swap to the other person's page, but the same section. So change to the other person's page, so you've got a totally blank section to work with on the other person's page for introduction activity. Okay, now, I understand what happened in round 1. We all did what we've always done. We're like, noughts and crosses, this is my chance to dominate, okay? But the instruction was very clear. Play as many games as you can. We probably just didn't hear that bit. So, we've got a final challenge using the page now. Both have your pen ready. You're going to have 40 seconds, and I'll give you a hint. It's going to sound very similar, the instruction. The instruction is, play as many games of noughts and crosses as you can in 40 seconds. Your time starts now. Now we're off and running. Interesting. Tactics at play here. Impressed. Okay, 20 seconds down, 20 seconds to go. Hi guys, joining us for this session. Want to be a leader? Welcome, join in. Grab a piece of paper off the back table. Grab a piece of paper and a pen off the back table.
We ran out of space.
That's all right. You got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up. Time is up. Okay. Now, just before we did the big reveal, and maybe it was an anticlimax because we only got to either 2 games or 3 games completed. This time, I'm interested to see what we came up with. Okay, raise your hand this time if you completed 3 or more games this time. Okay, so everybody's beating a record. Keep your hand up for 4 or more games. Okay, keep your hand up for 5 or more games. Okay, keep your hand up for 6 or more games. Ooh, it's double the record and most of the room's still in. Keep your hand up for 7 or more games. I don't know where to stop now. Keep your hand up for 8 or more games. Keep your hand up for 9 or more games. Okay, how many was it? 9, 8 and 8? 9. And how many did you have? And 9. Can we all be good sports? Give them a round of applause, everybody. 9. Okay. Now they tripled their record then. Very, very impressed. Okay, we went from a record of 3 to a record of 9. Even if you didn't get the record, give me a nod if in the second round you ended up with more than you did in the first round. Give me a nod if that was you. Okay, there's some important leadership lessons here. We're going to write these underneath where you've just played noughts and crosses, unless you've totally demolished your page. Okay, look at your page, and you'll see the sentence that's been started but not finished, and there are 2 lines to write this in. Okay, we're going to write these in as I put them on the screen. Being chosen as a leader is about cooperation, not competition. Write that in under your noughts and crosses. Line number 1. Chosen as the leader is about cooperation, not competition. Yep. Okay. So here's what some of you might notice in round 2. You could have taken your focus off, I want to win, that's the way I normally do things, to like coming up with a little strategy amongst yourselves as to, let's together, now that we realise if we work together, we might be able to get a more significant total. But there's another part to this as well, okay? And number 2 is doing things differently to others. Being chosen as a leader is about doing things differently to others. Now I want to show you something with the marker on the whiteboard. I noticed some people playing noughts and crosses a little bit differently as we went there. Now I know that many of us probably still had some grids and some we've played like the way we've played noughts and crosses before. Okay, that's good. But I saw some people who were like, I'll just do all of these and then we'll quickly play some games, okay? Now, instead of us being like, that's not the way you play noughts and crosses, well, if we're trying to play as many as we can, maybe it is. You know, I've seen some people who are like, I'll play against myself at the top half of the page, against myself, okay? You play against yourself at the bottom half of the page. Wow, look how many games I'm winning against myself, all right? Weird strategy, but it works, okay? So someone once who was like, yes, we played 32 games. I'm like, how did you play that? And they're like, oh, we just did this 32 times, okay? Now, the rest of us might be arguing like, that's not the official rule book of noughts and crosses. How dare they do that? Yeah, they heard the instruction and they went, hang on a second, play as many games of noughts and crosses as you can. I've got some noughts on the page, they did the cross. Yep, we'll go with it. Now, that's the interesting thing. They're breaking the rules, not in a bad way, but they're trying to think about the end goal. So, for any of us here today that like the idea perhaps of being chosen as a leader, whether that's at school, whether it's at a youth group, whether that's part of a hobby group, whether you're a sports team and you want to be the captain, you want to be chosen as a leader, you've got to change your thinking from, I need to stand out and be better than everybody else and compete with everybody around me. No, you've got to work with people around you and perhaps do some things differently to others. I have a story to tell you about this, right? When I was at school in year 10, one day, lunch bell rang, I walked out into the schoolyard quite early, my mates hadn't even rocked up yet, I'm sitting there eating my sandwich, and a teacher comes over to me. And like, I didn't even know this teacher. She comes up and says, hi, Ronan, I'm Mrs. Foreman. And I'm like, how does she know my name? I don't know her name, this is weird. And she's like, have a favour to ask. And I'm like, okay, like, what sort of favours do teachers normally need? Like, can you carry this stuff over here? And I'm like, yeah, okay, no worries, Mrs. Foreman. She's like, oh, so you'll do it? And I'm like, oh, what's the favour? She's like, no, you have to tell me first that you're going to do it. And I'm like, no, that sounds weird, okay? And she's like, yeah, but I'm scared that if I tell you what it is, you'll say you won't do it. I just want you to say yes first and then I'll tell you what it is. And I'm like, this is intriguing. It's gone from being weird to intriguing. So I said to Mrs. Foreman, she seems harmless. I said, okay, Mrs. Foreman, I'll do it. She's like, thank goodness. And she's like, well, I'm the dance teacher at the school. And I'm like, oh no, okay, that's why I didn't know Mrs. Foreman, all right? She's like, I'm the dance teacher. She said, every year, our school puts a dance item into the big dancer stead for the state, but it's only the girls who are part of the dance program at our school. And it looks lame if our school doesn't have at least one guy who's in the dance. Otherwise, it looks like a girls' school. We're not a girls' school. And she's like, so I need you to be the guy in the dance. And I'm like, oh no, Mrs. Foreman, you've got the wrong person. She says, you already agreed to it. And I'm like, oh, and I said, Mrs. Foreman, there's one important thing here. I don't know how to dance. Okay, that's why I'd be terrible. And she's like, oh, I've thought of that already. I'm like, what are you saying? She says, oh, I've got a plan. She says, we want to make this theme all about Superman, and so you can be Superman. I'm hearing this thinking, oh my goodness, I don't like the sound of that. Superman wears the thin blue lycra, doesn't he? I don't like the idea of this. And she says, that way, you can be Superman who flies, and so instead of dancing, we'll put you on rollerblades, and you can be on rollerblades across the stage while all the other dancers are doing their thing, and that'll be you being Superman flying. And I'm like, Mrs. Foreman, this is the worst day of my life right now. And she's like, no, it's easy. You need to come along to 3 different Sunday rehearsals, and in a month's time, we're performing in front of 2,000 people. I'm like, oh my goodness, okay? But I kind of thought like, well, it can't be that bad, can it? I said I'd be in it, I'll see what happens. Anyway, a Sunday rehearsal comes around. I rock up to school at the time that I was supposed to be there. I walk into the rehearsal room and there's like the 90 girls who are part of the dance program and me, okay? I know some of you boys are like, that sounds fun, okay? No, it's not fun, all right? When they're all there and they're all good dancers and all that, and you walk into the room and they all turn around and go, oh, and then Mrs. Foreman's like, he's going to be the Superman. And all the girls are like, yay! And I'm like, not yay, okay? Then, before we even got to the dance bit, Mrs. Foreman introduces me to the costume lady who whips me across to the costume room, and she's giving me this grand vision. A lot of you guys would have seen different Superman stuff. You know how Superman is like Clark Kent, a news reporter in a suit, okay? And he goes into a phone box and then he comes out as Superman. They thought this through. The opening part of this dance was going to be a phone box on the stage, and I was going to be wearing a suit. and I was going to walk into this phone box, put the rollerblades on in the phone box where no one can tell, and then I was going to come out of the phone box, and they had already made for me a suit that had all these press studs the whole way down the side. And so as I came out, I needed to go like this, like literally rip off a suit and then be standing there in the Superman lycra and the cape and the big V and all this stuff. They'd planned it all. They had my measurements sorted, everything. I reckon they'd been planning it months before even asking me and convincing me to do it, okay? Big conspiracy right now. Anyway, I don't know, it was just someone who was similar. So, anyway, we did these rehearsals. I was terrible with the dance moves. The rollerblading was dreadful. The floor was too slippery. Anyway, we did it for over the next couple of Sundays rehearsal, and we did the performance. And at the end of the performance, I was just like so embarrassed, right? And I thought, all the girls must be like, why did we put him in the dance? He was terrible. Not true. Every one of the girls was so grateful. They're from all these different year levels in the school. Was so grateful. They were like, thanks for being in the dance. Like, it would have looked dumb if the girl was playing Superman when we could have had a boy to do it. I had lots of girls who I don't even know from around the school just simply saying, thank you. Now, remember I said I was year 10? It was only about a year and a half later when there were student council elections at my school and you could nominate to be a student leader. And I'm like, yeah, I'd like to do that. So I put my name down to be a student leader. They had this voting process in my school. And in the lead up to that, I must have had nearly all of these girls, just if they saw me around the school, they didn't make a big deal of it. They were very polite. They were like, hey, Ronan, we'd like to vote for you to be the school captain because you helped us when we needed it. Or like, you did something that was a little awkward, we know it. You've got our vote, okay? So we need to carry on like some silly presidential election, vote for me, choose me to be your leader, I'm the toughest person, count me in as the leader. None of that. They actually all were voting for me because I'd done things differently to others. It wasn't about giving a speech, it wasn't about having the most friends. It was about, yeah, I'll be part of it if you need me to do it. And got a whole lot of votes. And the way the story finishes is I was fortunate. I was chosen to be the school captain. And I didn't have to go around and tell people to vote for me for the sake of it. It's because I just approached the way that I was spending my time at school differently to others. Now, on your notes page, you'll see... No, I'll jump ahead, I'll do something differently. I'm going to get you to, in your partners, I'm going to send in just a moment one person to come up and grab a coloured card from me. Okay, you'll get to choose the colour, your choice. And I want you to take it back and answer the question, why do you want to be a leader? Okay, I know that's an open question. And you might be answering it in terms of your school, in terms of your parish, in terms of your sports team. That's up to you, all right? But, like, why do you want to be a leader? Why does the idea of being a leader stand out as something positive to you? Okay, so send one person from your partner to come and grab a card. Collect one. Your choice of colours. Just one. Just one. And I want you to write your answer down.
Is that for both of us or?
Yeah, you two of you discuss it together and find a reason that you agree on. You feeling all right? Okay, no worries, sorry. Any names or anything on them, just bring them back up to me. She'll collect your amazing knowledge. Thank you very much.
Read the first one.
Okay.
It's true.
Okay. No worries.
It's true.
Thank you very much. No, you're right. Great. Okay. I shall read some possible answers to you. No judgment from me. I gave you the open question, why do you want to be a leader? And your answer's valid. You guys who were so keen to make sure that I drew attention to your one, you had 3 answers.
Read them all out. Read them
Okay. Some of them deep and wise.
Wait, read the first one out last.
Okay. The deep and wise ones. People will respect you. People will listen to you. And the other one you've added is, you can be bossy. Yes. Okay. Well, I asked you for your answer and you gave me a fair answer. I appreciate it. Next one. It is a great opportunity where you get to help others, take responsibility, that's a good word, and have fun. I like it. This is a good answer for sport. If you want to make a change or to help a group be cooperative, the leader can do that. This is cool. To hear others' ideas and put them into action. Blue one. Who did that one? That's a great one. Excellent. The guys at the back hearing from others' ideas. I like it. Red one. Leading can result in help, whether it is helping the team or someone else through the team. Therefore, we enjoy helping people. Excellent. Good theme there, helping people. We want to be a leader because other people look up to you. And this final one, the pink one, to inspire others to follow their dreams and make a difference in society. Cool. So it's not just about you, the leader, achieving your dreams, helping others to make a difference. Who was the pink one? That one. Who was that one? Excellent. Thank you. Fantastic answers. Okay. I want to summarise that with a sentence at the bottom of your notes page. So underneath where we did the noughts and crosses part, you'll see a dark sentence. And I'll show you. This is funny. I put it in the PowerPoint and I forgot to take it out so you can laugh at it, right? There's a couple of photos of me in high school, all right? Some time ago, I said I was chosen as the school captain. This was the photo that particular year. This is me in the school captain year. Just happened to have that there. So that was 2 years after the famous dance incident that just described. And I'll show you the second photo from the same year. Me and my girlfriend at the school formal, who many years later did become my wife and is here at the conference as well. So, no, could mean that any of the people hanging around you right now could end up becoming your husband and wife in the future, okay? You never know. So this is Emma and I at high school, right there, school formal, year 12, okay? So, I'll go to the sentence that I wanted you to write down. To be chosen or to be effective as a leader, focus less on the position and more on the people. Be chosen or effective as a leader. It's less on the position and more on the people. Okay, you've written that in. Here's the thing. You want to be chosen as a captain of your sports team. I know that sounds like a position, but you can't make that your focus. You want to be elected as a student leader in your school. I know that's a position and it might come with a badge, but you can't make the position your focus, okay? You like the idea of being the parish youth leader one day because the youth leader's someone that everybody looks up to, looks cool. Now, don't focus on the position. The people who end up being great leaders spend their time in their journey focusing on the people around them. I'm actually glad that some of those coloured cards that you guys handed in before talked about the things that you would do to help. We'll get to some questions later, thank you. But focusing on the people becomes a really, really important part of leadership. And I'm going to give you some ideas as to how you would do that, all right? And that's the second side of your notes page where you can see the triangle, all right? Call it the selection triangle, meaning these are the things that you could do to gradually increase the kind of leader that you are. So we're going to start from the bottom, the smaller section of the triangle. So like it's a small first step in growing as a leader, and then the second and the third as we get bigger, okay? So the first one, core values, if you can write that down. The first thing to focus on to be selected as a leader is core values. Okay, now some people think that leadership is about the skills, meaning are you a good public speaker? Are you well organised? Now, those things are nice to have, that's fine, but I'm telling you right now as a starting point, a much more important starting point, forget about skills for the moment, is core values. Like, when you say you're going to tell your truth, are you actually telling the truth? When you commit to doing something, are you going to follow through on that? Are you going to represent goodness instead of trying to be cheeky and get around things? Like, we're talking about the values that we have as people being a really, really, really important step on a leadership journey. I'll show you what I mean by sharing with you a story. We'll do it by a video. You're going to meet here a student who became a very influential school captain in his school. Not because he did things with his skills that were important, but because of the values he is as a person. Let me have a look at this story now.
I ended up going to Christchurch Boys High School as it was sort of a last minute change just about because Christchurch Boys High really fitted with my values and who I saw myself as a person. I came into Boys High after having been head boy at my last school, and I remember in year 9 people were joking and saying, are you going to be head boy here as well? And I was thinking, absolutely not, no way. This is a school of 1,500 boys almost, and my year group of about 300 kids. So not only was it a much bigger pond to be a very small fish in, but it was a really incredible selection of guys who were in the school. Really.
I actually met Jake when he was named as a monitor and the boys went away on the monitors camp.
I felt really fortunate to have even been sick as a monitor. That was a group of guys who were, exceptional.
And I then interviewed Jake after that for the position of senior monitor.
How do you feel? There's no need to be as well.
Did a 15 to 20 minute interview as did the other candidates, and then he called me one afternoon a few days later and said, would you like to be senior monitor next year? And I still remember the feeling of kind of the blood draining from my face and my stomach churning. It was like, it was a pretty huge responsibility. And as a result of a bone marrow aspirate, a kidney biopsy, a gum biopsy, an ultrasound, a CT scan, an MRI scan, I was told that I had stage 4 Burkitt's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma presenting in my kidneys, my pancreas, my eye sockets, my nasal passages, my jaw, my bone marrow, spinal fluid, brain lining. I think that's all of it. I haven't memorised them all yet.
Yeah, there was a state of shock for the school. The obvious tragedy surrounding that news of cancer, and also the fact that it was someone as prominent in the school community. It was shattering, obviously.
I said, I've got to do this, and I got out of bed and I started shaving, and I got about halfway through it, and the sheer exhaustion on my body from doing it caused me to be sick, and I sat on the side of my bed being sick into this bucket, and I thought, there's no way that I can do this. And there was a nurse that came in, the one nurse who really is responsible for me having done the speech. So she came in and she said, are you going to do it? And I said, look, I can't do it. And she said, okay, that's fine, but I just don't want you to regret it. And I said to myself, okay, yeah, I'll have another crack. And I got up and I finished shaving and I got through it, and I thought, well, I've done that. One step down, I was going to put my uniform on. So just the exhaustion of getting dressed, maybe I'd be sick again. And I was back on the side of my bed, being sick into a bucket, and she came back in and said, are you going to do it? And I said, look, I really can't do it. And at that moment I would have taken that uniform off, and I would have got back into bed and I would have flavoured it, and my life would have been completely different to how it is now. But she said, I just don't want you to regret it. And Dad wheeled me onto the wings, and he just crouched down beside me and said, you'll be great, and wheeled me out, and I was like, damn, I'm doing it now. And that was how it all started.
None of us get out of life alive. So be gallant, be great, be gracious, and be grateful for the opportunities that you have. The opportunity to learn from the men who have walked before you and those who walk beside you. My challenge to each of you and to myself is to continue to grow and to develop for the better. The future is truly in our hands. Forget about long-term dreams. Let's be passionately dedicated to the pursuit of short-term goals. Micro-ambitious. Work with passion and pride on what is in front of us. We don't know where we might end up, or when it might end up. I don't know where it goes from here for any of us. For me, for you. But I wish you the very best in your journey, and I thank you all for being part of mine. Wherever we go and whatever we do, may we always be friends when we meet again. Outro.
won't speak for too long tonight, but I am pretty thrilled about how different the speech I'm about to make is compared to the one I made this time last year. It shows how much can change in a year.
Okay, Jake's story, pretty powerful, pretty unique to his particular challenge. But you can see there how people in his school would really want to follow him. But we don't actually see anything there about his skills. It's not like, oh, you fundraise lots of money, Jake, so we should make you the school captain, okay? Or not, you're the best speaker, so we should make you the school captain. You could perceive people like the character of who he was. That's what we mean by our core values. And when your core values and people like who you are and what you stand for and the way you live your life, when you focus on that as the very first part of a leadership journey, then you start working your way up the triangle where people are wanting you to be their leader. Okay, so that's step number one, core values of the triangle. We'll go back to the diagram, having talked about core values. We start becoming more influential at number two, and that is where we care for others. Some of you wrote words like this on those coloured cards just before, care for others. I remember in my first week at high school, standing in a queue at our school library to collect a library card. Like people needed a library card from the school, and they were joining a queue. And I remember standing in this queue feeling a bit awkward because I didn't know the people in front or behind me. I'm just a bit nervous, first week at the school. And a student turns around in front of me and it's like, hey buddy. And he was one of the older students, so I'm freaking out a bit nervous. And I'm like, hi. He's like, what's your name? I'm like, Ronan. I'm like, what's your name? His name is Rob. And then I recognise him, like, oh, he's one of the student leaders that I saw in the school assembly the other day. Rob. Felt a bit nervous, like I'm standing here with one of the student leaders. But he was so cool, asking me questions like, what subjects have you decided to do at school? Are you enjoying the first week of high school? Like, he was just genuinely interested, showing just basic care. I thought that was pretty good. Anyway, after 10 minutes of chatting to Rob, I'd got my library card and on I went. The next day, I saw him walking across the schoolyard. I said to one of my mates, I nudged my mate, I'm like, see that guy over there? That's Rob in senior class. He's one of my friends, all right? And he's like, no, he's not. And I'm like, how do you know? And they go, because he's one of my friends. I'm like, what are you talking about? I talked to Rob yesterday for 15 minutes. And he's like, well, I catch the same bus home as Rob yesterday, and he talked to me for 25 minutes. I'm like, damn it, I've been out-robbed by him, okay? Not out-robbed, but you get what I mean, okay? And then another friend of ours is like, you've met Rob as well? I was talking to her, and it became clear to us that without making a big deal of it, Rob was just genuinely interested in getting to know as many people around the school as he possibly can. And that was his way of just showing care. He was just a happy kind of guy that wanted to talk and get to know people. All of a sudden, there's all of us who want to follow Rob, like anything Rob says, we'll do. Why? Because he shows care for others. We don't know whether he's a good public speaker. We don't know whether he's an organised human being. We don't know whether he's talented at music, at sport, or any of those things. We just know that he likes caring for people around the place, and he's good at having a chat. That's why we wanted to follow Rob. So again, you don't need to focus too much on fancy leadership skills, and you can see how you start to increase the influence you are. People want to follow you. I'd vote for Rob absolutely because of the care that he showed for others. But there's one more big section at the top that we'll write, and that is contribute to the school or the church or the team. Whatever this means for you. Contribute to the school or the church or the team. Okay, little story to give this one as an example. This was in my second last year of high school, okay? And in that particular year, I remember the teacher coming up to me, not Mrs. Foreman, thankfully, nothing to do with dancing, no Superman costumes, none of that. The teacher was Mr. McCarthy. He taps me on the shoulder and he's like, Ronan, got a special leadership position we've created. We're calling it the leader of transport. Would you be able to do that? I'm like, yeah, no worries, that's great. He walks off and then I'm like, hang on a second. Leader of transport? What the heck is a leader of transport? Makes no sense. Who's ever heard of any of you guys ever heard of a leader of transport? Makes no sense at all. I'm like, cool, okay. And so that afternoon, I go to Mr. McCarthy's office. I'm like, knock on the door. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, thank you again for asking me, but I'm going to need you to explain to me what a leader of transport does. And he's like, oh, Ronan, it's very, very simple. I'm like, okay. And he stands me up and he takes me to a window over the side of his office. And from his office, you can see the school oval, big oval like this school's got, massive oval. And he points to the other side of the oval and he's like, can you see that over there? And I'm looking on the other side of the oval. There's nothing, just bushland. I'm like, no, I can't see that over there. He's like, no, see in the distance. And I'm like, what? And he's like, can you see that little shed? Okay, now, there was like just basically a garden shed, a little metal shed on the other side of the school oval. And he's like, see that shed there? I'm like, this is weird. Okay, like what's with this shed? No one even knows that it's there. And he points at it and he goes, that shed is going to be your special place. And I'm like, whoa, this is real weird. What the heck? Okay, special place. And he's like, that shed is for students who ride bicycles to school. They go in there, they get locked up, so it's not a distraction during the day, all these bikes around the campus. I'm like, I never even knew that. And he's like, there's only about 20 students who ride the push bike to school. They know people can take the bike over there. And he says, but here's the thing, because the shed is all the way over there, we don't want bikes stolen during the day, it's so far from the rest of the school. He's like, your job is to take this padlock, and he gave me the padlock. And he's like, in the morning, when the school siren rings to start the day, you walk across the oval, you lock it up, the bike stays safe at the end of the day. End of the day, you walk there, you got the key, you unlock it, and the bikes can come out and students can ride home. I'm like, yeah, sounds fair enough, simple enough, no worries. The first few days of me having this job, I felt very important. You would see me walking across the oval with like a sense of importance, like, look at me, I'm here to lock the bikes, keep everything safe, this is me at your service, okay? And for those first few days, it was fun. After that, I'm like, this is the worst job ever. Like, I absolutely hate it, because like at the end of the school day, the school siren rings and everyone wants to go home, and if I'm not the first one there to unlock the bikes, they're all standing there like, hurry up, run faster on the oval, I want to go home, you're holding me up, okay? You can picture that, right? Nobody likes that, okay? That's me. I'm having to run fast, sorry guys. Like, yeah, you'll be sorry. I'm like, I'm trying to do the right thing here, okay? After 2 weeks of this job, I went back to Mr. McCarthy. I actually took the padlock, the key, everything. I put it back on his desk. I'm like, thank you for asking me to be leader of transport. I feel like you've conned me into this, okay? I said, I don't actually want to do it anymore. And he said this to me, I'll still remember it. He said, Ronan, no one's going to make you do this. He said, but there's a ton of jobs that happen around the school that a lot of people don't know about. And the people who do them, those people who put their hand up to do those jobs, they're growing as leaders. And this is an opportunity for you to just do the jobs that nobody wants to do. This is one for you, and see what happens next. I'm like, yeah, okay, that does sound fair enough. Whatever I said I'd do it, I'll follow through. And the rest of that year, I did the stupid job of unlocking the bike shed. Now remember I said before about the student council elections, and when people came up and said to me and said, hey Ronan, we're going to vote for you because you did the dance thing. There was another whole group of people that came and said, we don't even know what you do when you walk to that shed every day, but we see you do it day after day doing something. I'm like, oh, it's the bikes. And they're like, wow, who knew? Okay. People are like, we've seen you stick at something that is obviously needed, like a contribution. We're voting for you because you're not in this to just be popular. You've made a contribution, and so we want to follow you. And I learnt that day, as people would say that to me, that one of the most important things to do if you ever want to be chosen as a leader is to be doing all the little jobs first, the things that nobody wants to do, but there's still a contribution. In the end, people do notice them, they want you to be their leader, and it can come with a sense of satisfaction, but good news is you've done a lot of good along the way as you went. Now there's another step to your triangle diagram. If you've written those three things in on those lines, there'll be a little bit of space perhaps, still in the triangle diagram, but in the section where we're going to write something else. So I'm going to put some questions on the screen. I don't want you to copy the questioning. Let me just repeat that. I don't want you to copy the question. I want you to think about an answer to write in. So for example, this bottom section of your triangle, I want you to just in that section randomly, list some values that are important to you. Next one. I'll put them all on the screen so you can have some time to work on it. Who can you care for and how? Because remember number 2 was care. So you'll think about it. If you're thinking about your sports team or your parish youth group or people at your school, whom are the people that need a bit of extra care around the place? And then the top one, how can you contribute to the place this year? I gave you my examples. I could help with the stupid Superman dance, and I could help with the dumb bike shed that needed to be done. That was it for me. You guys will be thinking about at your place, what are some of the things you can do to contribute? Okay, I'll leave them on the screen, so for the next few moments you can just quietly have a crack at that. But write your answers in. If you're done, that's awesome, but see if you can come up with more answers, like more values that you've got, more ways you can contribute. Try and write them into the space that's there. Yeah. We're going to finish pretty soon anyway, but yeah, come back. Question, mate.
For the last one, isn't it?
The last one meaning the top one? Yep.
Would you say an appropriate answer would be help with stuff?
Well, help with stuff, I get it. So see if you can come up with some things that are the stuff jobs, meaning you might be saying that to mean the things that sort of just happen that nobody could plan for. That's okay. But see if you can think of some of the contributions that you know need to be made around the place, that you're like, no one wants to do that job, but I could put my hand up. See if you can think of that. It'll take a bit of strain the brain to think of some of these things, but that's leadership. That's cool, yeah. That good one. Sanitising a church after the service. No one wants that job. That's a stupid job. And you think, like, give that to the old lady that nobody cares. No, you know what I mean? No, but you're right. You do that, and then you do it the second week and the third week and the fourth week. People are looking at you and saying, that's impressive. We've got a young lady who's sticking around after church doing the sanitising that nobody wants to do. That's it. That's the path to leadership. Well done. Yeah. Old ladies will be impressed, by the way. Okay, try and get at least one thing written into each section. I know, youth cap, you like it? A couple of years ago they had them at the conference. It was like heaps and you could get them. Merch changes all the time. Nah, I bought it back then. This year they've got the bucket hats. Seen the bucket hats? Yep. You know, use bucket caps. Got it a few years ago. Limited edition. Changes all the time. You do? Okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to get your pair of people who've been doing noughts and crosses, and I want you to combine with another pair of people, so you've got a group of 4, and I want you to be bold and brave and read your answers from the triangle to them. Okay, so as a group of 4, you're going to read to each other in the group the things you've written in the triangle. Okay, everybody stand up, swing your chair around or something to find the other people, make a group. You remember the first sentence that I said? One of the first things we wrote down was focus more on people, not on position. Everything we've written in this triangle are tools and strategies to help you to focus on people around you. My experience is that will help you to grow into the role of becoming and chosen as a leader. If you get selected as a leader, that's fantastic. If you don't get selected as a leader, you've done amazing things as a leader anyway. If we look in the Bible at so many stories, Jesus went to the Pharisees, who were the leaders that were so worried about their position. And he was basically thinking, you Pharisees thinking so much about your position, no one's ending up following you. And Jesus said so many times, don't worry about this position of yours. Focus less on this position of yours. There are people that we need to help that are out there. And as we help people, we end up getting followers. And so Jesus, who didn't worry too much about his position, 2,000 years later, so many million followers because he was, thank you, the 2 billion qualification there. 2 billion followers, but if we add up people over the generations that have followed Jesus, Jesus wasn't focused on position. He was focused on people. That's a good enough example to me.